Security and privacy under system preferences. This is enthralling, isn't it? So
I apologise. This is how it always was going to start. So welcome to this evening's ReGenAg chat. My name is Genever, and we're also Nick is here, and she'll introduce herself in a moment. We're also being joined by Michael Blanche in varying degrees. So currently we can hear him but not see him. He's just working through his settings on his computer. There's quite a lot of top tips coming for Michael in terms of his appearance if he is feeling a bit shy, so that's nice. So in terms of, we talked a bit about Nick's Christmas plans. My Christmas plans is I'm going for a long walk with my sister and then going to my parents for my Christmas tea. So I'm quite fortunate I get to spend some time with my family, even though I've been with them nearly constantly since March. So that's good. That's what I'm up to. And then this week, I've also mainly been dealing with, lockdown has turned me into the Ray Mears equivalent. I'm salting my own deer hide. So I think it is the beginning of potentially a breakdown. But when you next see me on a call and I'm wearing just furs, you'll know why.
So you and your sister found a freshly dead deer and you hauled it in the back of the truck? In the middle of the road, and it was still warm. So we picked it up out of the way, and then I've learnt the new word of gralocked, and then butchered it and skinned it. No, sorry, skinned it, then butchered it. That's the way around it works.
Is it not gralocked?
Possibly. I'm not sure I have the accent for it. So thank you. So yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Thank you. So yeah, that's what I've been busy doing. And now eating venison for most meals.
What are you eating what are you eating currently, Liz? Stollen.
So yeah, I'm ready Christmas. I'm quite Christmassy with my stollen. So it's
an alcohol.
Okay. So Michael, we're still filling in case you want to turn your video on.
Yeah, I can't even see you now. I'm giving up. See ya.
Okay, so we'll just start. This is meant to be a relaxing one. This is just meant to be a gentle lead into Christmas. But it transpires it's not a relaxing one. So Michael, you're with us.
Yeah, I'm with you. But
okay.
I can't see you now.
Let's
just come on.
We're fine. I'm just seeing some chats come through. Right. So, Michael, welcome. I think the first time I met you, we were in a corn shed in either Dorset or Hampshire, and we were talking all grass wintering. And you had a gentle weep when you were talking about your Nuffield, which we'll come on to. That was the first.
Did I start crying?
You definitely had a slight tear in your eye. But I do think, and there's not that many people, but I did decide that I did like you.
Wreck at that point.
I accept that, and I did decide I liked you from that moment, not just you seemed a nice guy. So that was my first memory. How about Nick? What was your first memory of Michael? When did you first meet him?
I met him at Charlie Walker's, Charlie and Andrea's, and he shoved a microphone under.
You ran away, Nick.
And I ran away, and then Reno sang Bon Jovi to you.
Yeah,
so, but I did like
saved the day.
Like Liz said, I did like you straight away, and then since then you've accompanied me on very long journeys with your 3-hour podcasts.
All right.
Yeah, so I do love you a little bit. I think I'm slightly obsessed with you. Liz might not be, but I am. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No, I am. I think you're really cool, and I want to get deeper. So, can I go first, Liz?
You may.
Michael, tell us about when you were little.
Well, when
he's not that tall now. Sorry, Al.
When I was little.
Like when you were a little boy, what were you like? Growing up.
Well, it was very cute. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Nice smile. And but then it all changed as I grew up. But no, I was a very shy little kid actually, and I suppose we'll just get right into the deep stuff, right? So
yeah,
I I've always wondered why I was so obsessed with farming when I didn't come from a farming background. And when I was 3 years old, my mother had my brother, who I still hate, Actually, I don't. I love him dearly. But she had real problems. And she, for a 3-year-old boy, I didn't see her only saw her in hospital for maybe, I think it was about 4 months. And I'm on, you can't see me, but I'm on the couch, the psychiatrist's couch at the moment. Mm-hmm. But, and at the same time, just after she got out of hospital, we moved up from the suburbs of Edinburgh into sort of Banffshire, which many people won't know, but it's in between Aberdeenshire and Murray, right in between Inverness and Aberdeen. So we did that, and we moved into a hamlet, and it was dominated by a big farm. And of course, a little sort of slightly insecure little boy moved in and saw all these, like, it was a real mixed farm. I got a ride in a combine and help with the sheep. Well, I didn't help with the sheep. I looked at the sheep, and it was like a real solace to me, I think. So I think from then on, I started farming basically, and I bought all these little farming toys, and I had sheep that never died. I probably bought my last tractor that I'll always, that I'll ever buy, and just played with that. So I think that's where I read somewhere that psychologically your passion comes from when something that happens before you're 7 years old. And I think that was maybe, I don't know. I think the people that may be listening to this are passionate enough to, interested in farming enough to spend an evening listening to some bloke with glasses go on and on and on about farming. And you two are well passionate about it. And it just interests me why people are so passionate about anything, but particularly farming.
I was particularly interested because of the first generation element of you. So it is that decision, isn't it, to go to be a farmer? Like, I'm third generation farm owner, sort of small, sort of mixed farming. So sometimes it feels like it feels like it's another sort of job. But I just think it's interesting when you've chosen it. Well, it sometimes feels like it's put upon. So some days my passion isn't quite as passionate as it should be. So I think it's just interesting where that almost like a vocation came from. Quite an emotional place, I suppose.
Yeah.
And your parents just had normal jobs, didn't they? Very accountant and a teacher. Is that right?
Yes, you have been doing your homework.
I have. I mean, yeah, I have. You're my obsession this week. So what did they think? They probably wanted you to just have a very normal kind of professional job, did they? Or were they not bothered?
Well, they didn't care for me particularly, but no, they wanted me to do a sort of nice professional thing, like a lawyer or, doctor. That sort of thing. They're slightly snobby, my parents. I hope they're not listening. But they wanted. Yeah, I suppose that's in many ways why I became a land agent, because it kind of met with their approval. But they're very Calvinist. Work hard, do a profession. Very, I mean, I can't thank them enough for what they've done for me, but they were focused on particular things their children. My brother's a stockbroker in Australia and making.
Oh,
we losing you, Michael?
Really?
I think his brother.
No, yes.
His brother's a stockbroker in Australia.
Yeah, and earning loads of money. So I think my parents are probably right.
Is he as passionate about stockbroking as you are about sheep?
No, he's bought a little farm and bought a tractor.
Any sheep?
Because he can. I'm still trying to get the camera going, but it's not working.
I think it's also but interesting that they obviously were like the country to move to a hamlet between. Do you mean they could have? It wasn't like you came out of the smoke almost onto a farm. So there was a connection to the country.
Yeah. My dad was he's a proper keen gardener and stuff, and I don't know why. I suppose his job was quite rural at the time. You know, he's an accountant for a timber firm. So, and it was, I think they wanted the countryside life, I suppose. Yeah, no, definitely.
So then you went to Harper, did you?
It's probably a little bit in between that,
not
but let's.
3 years old, no.
Is he there?
But sorry, Nick. I'm trying to be funny.
Maybe just give up.
Just concentrate.
Yeah, give up with this video.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So you went to Harper.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
What do you think of Cirencester?
Sorry, my internet. I think my internet's being crap. Sorry.
Was there a bit in between? Because all I heard was, "What do you think about Cirencester?" Was there a bit of before in terms of Harper? Oh. It's not happy.
I think Liz, he's trying to get around.
Can you hear me?
Yep. You're just quite crackly, so I don't know whether your Wi-Fi is in and out a bit. He's gone again.
No, the phrase that what do you think sounds says a rude comeback? People might just do as they're listening.
He's now just
talking to himself.
He's talking to himself. Oh, it keeps changing. So there's a question, Michael, if you're still there.
Yes.
I don't know what's it's fine. Not at all, Rish.
I'm getting rude messages from people.
Well, quite. So do you think there's a question on the chat about sort of deeming farming as a non-professional career? Do you think that is fair? That's a bit of a version of the question.
No. Whoa. No, don't get upset about that. That's just my parents. I'm not making I think my point was that they had quite a narrow view of what their sons should do. Now, that's not to say that's nothing against farming. I think what they had against farming was that their warnings were, if you don't have a farm, if you have nothing to inherit, there's no point in farming.
So
which is actually, there's a point to that, isn't there?
So it came from a place of care, I suppose, isn't it? Which is they were concerned about how you'd get going, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just deal with the Harper thing because it got sort of scrambled a bit. So you went, there were obviously a few more years, and then you went to Harper and you took an instant dislike to anybody from Cirencester, and that was to be a land agent, and that was probably pre-shuffle. So what was your outfit of choice as a land agent in the 90s?
Okay, well, it was primarily based around the fabric of tweed. So
yeah.
Tweed vest, tweed underpants.
Scratchy.
Yeah. Well, it kept me moving. And then I suppose flannel shirt as a sort of, as a rest from the tweed, and then tweed on top of the flannel.
And a question that's come through: any coloured? So if you did have to go for a coloured trouser, what was your colour of choice? Mustard?
It was a mustard, actually. Yeah, I never went for the red ones.
Or pink?
Pink. John, I quite often. Well, I used to go around the country watching my son play rugby, and we'd go to all these different public schools, and every time there would be a person with pink or red trousers there, and I would take a photograph and then send it to John. It's sort of like a thing we did. But I never went for the pink. I went for the cords as well, dark green cords. But that's
so. Michael, when you were a land agent, did you feel that you fitted in, or were you always did you have to try hard to be a land agent?
Yeah, I mean, I'll come out now, but I am a public school boy, so it wasn't, I mean, and it was full of public school boys, that profession. And but I am also slightly pink in my political views, so it kind of did go against the grain, and I felt I was I mean, it was a great firm to work for, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't take when I was working there, you learn so much from stuff that you don't necessarily enjoy. And my boss there was probably one of the best bosses I've ever had. And he taught me so much, and how to deal with people, how to negotiate. I'm still not very good at it, but he was really good at it in a sort of gentlemanly way. So his absolute goal was to have a negotiation which each party was happy with. So, and he did business in the right way, did it in a sort of caring way, I would say. So, so I learned a lot from them, but I definitely, come Sunday evening, I would have this dread in the pit of my stomach. I didn't want to go to work. And we had this workload, which was primarily compensation claims with Scottish Water, gas pipelines, oil pipelines, all that sort of stuff. So it was negotiation after negotiation after negotiation. And for someone that doesn't like confrontation, it was quite a challenge. So I did a relatively good impression of a land agent, but when and I'll never forget that feeling on a Sunday evening, not wanting to go to work. That's not a healthy place to be. So.
And have you had that feeling since you started changing what you were up
to? No, not at all.
But you would have been giving up a quite well-paid job when you decided you wanted to, when you did your credit card job, Michael, with your 50 sheep.
Yes.
You were you could have had quite a cushy number there being a land agent, couldn't you?
Well, that came in stages, Nick. So I was offered a partnership in that land agency firm. And, a partnership isn't just for, partnership is for life. And you have to invest quite a lot of it. It works in that you have to invest to get, and then at the tail end of your career, it's great, So I actually did my basis qualification whilst I was a land agent, and that was just about all self-taught. I went down to Harper to do the final bit. Well, I did a few courses at Harper, but I had no one showing me the way really, and I scraped through. So that's something that that's actually, I'm quite proud of that. But so I did my basis whilst with land agent, and then I moved to SAC. I took a pay cut, and we moved up to Perth, and that was another 4 or 5 years. So I was at that, And SEC was just like, SEC was like a little kid being in a sweetie shop for all the information you want. You know, someone that was mad keen on farming. You had all these experts that knew so much that you could just lift the phone. In fact, you're encouraged to do it. You lift the phone up and just ask any question you could get. And there's such a breadth of knowledge in that organization. It was amazing. And the clients I had, I mean, I had quite a small area, but it was West Fife. It was, and the West Fife's it's quite hard to farm in West Fife. I mean, there are bits that are very good, but you know, it's a lot of it is open cast reclamation, and even with the stuff that isn't open reclaimed, it's still wet and boggy, and it's really quite hard to farm. And the farmers there had to be good, you know. So it was such a good experience. But my last year, I think the pressure came. I wasn't very good at earning money, you know. So I suppose that there was pressure in that respect. And I remember, you know, my head boss actually sort of, I don't know, I just didn't think I was valued too much. I think there was quite a lot of pressure. And, you know, I wasn't very good because I wasn't earning loads of money, which is fair enough. You know, these are the standards that they set, so that's fair enough. I actually went for a head of office job in Forfar. And you know, when you go for a job interview and you're the only candidate and you still don't get the job, that kind of gives you a message.
Oh, what was your feedback?
Don't. I can't remember. You know, they said, "Oh, look, I think we decided to advertise it externally." So you know, what do you do then? I actually went for a beef specialist job as well, but that was the most car crash interview I've ever done.
Worse than this one?
Well, they could see me.
Start. So,
yeah.
What didn't go well in your opinion? I now can't see Nick either, so that's exciting.
No, I'm here. I'm just trying to help my internet.
Okay.
Say again, Liz.
What happened? Why was it so disastrous?
Oh, the beef specialist job?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I had some pre-prepared lines, something quoting Rocky. You know.
As in Rocky Bullwinkle, or Rocky
now.
as in the boxer.
The boxer.
Right.
Like Sylvester Stallone. I don't think I did a Stallone accent, but it was pretty close. So anyway, so you get the message that really you're a bit of, in their world, you're not quite up to it. So, and I remember, actually, this is the bit, this is so, I'm going to get I remember driving, which is a beautiful part of the world, between Clackmannanshire. A song came on. You've got the music in you, you know, by the whatchamacallums.
Oh, I know.
And it was really quite poignant because the people in the song were saying, actually, you're all right. You're gonna, you can do it. And my bosses were saying that, no, you're not that great. You know, so. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, I'm contemplating what my power song is. That's what I was thinking about. Which is the song, which is, you know, when you just needed either a dose of reality or a power.
Tell us.
I think it's The Voice by John Farnham. That's quite good every now and again.
I don't know that one, Liz. Can you sing it for me?
I cannot sing it. No, I shall put it in the chat later, a link to it.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's your power song, Nick?
Well, I don't know, but I do know that Reno can play the bagpipes in the little bit of John Farnham where you need the bagpipes. He can do that bit.
How does the voice go? How you sing it, Nick?
I know I'm not a singer. No. Reno will be laughing in the other room. No. I'm not. No. Terrible. I was told to mime. So bad.
I think it's school. School has put you off singing forever. School songs.
You would have been a choir boy, John. John. Who's John? Michael. I was thinking of John Farnham.
That's awkward.
Yeah. I thought you'd done loads of research on me, Nick. Come on.
Sorry. I was thinking of John. I was thinking of John Farnham. So when how old were you when you finished wearing your tweed land agencying?
How old was I? That's a good point. Land agency would have been 26. No, 28. Because I did do 2 degrees, you see. I was a bit of a perpetual student. And and then SEC was, I was 32 when I left, I think. 33 maybe. Because at SEC, that's where I was really wanting to. This farming thing was really getting to me because I'd wanted to be a farmer.
He's just walked somewhere.
I think he's moving around.
And it's upsetting everything.
Yeah.
But other than that.
It's making me drink my gin rather quickly, I know this.
I will, let me see if I can message him. See whether I've got the phone number, I can send it to him and see whether he'll ring in that way. It's curious that Reno can play the bagpipes of my Powers tune. We never knew that.
Well, he did it.
I'm sorry.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just keep still.
Okay. But I'm sitting on the floor right next to the bloody Wi-Fi thing.
Okay. So land agent SAC, then you started at what point? So you were starting to do thinking of the farming element, or the farming sort of bug was getting stronger, for want of a better phrase. But in terms of, and then you moved, was it then moved into QMS and then started doing more work on grass, or did it all sort of come together?
No. So at SEC, when I was thinking, they don't really rate me, I'm the only person that goes for a job and they don't give me it. But parallel to that was this, because I went to SEC because I was mad about farming, and wanting to farm was seen as an impossibility. But then, and it was really bugging me. And I remember quite close, maybe 2 years before I left SEC, it was really, it's been bugging me for ages, and I couldn't sleep. And I sat on the stairs and I decided to start. I know it sounds pathetic, but that was actually quite a big deal for me because it was going against everything that I'd been told. And so I think if any moment in my life, that one is hard to beat, because it was actually a decision to stop being a fanny and actually do something. And so I went down and I told Kate, my wife, that I would buy sort of 10 Wiltshire Horn sheep. And by the end of September that year, I'd got 50. and we'd got some rented grazing 12 miles away from a very nice couple, and we just started farming. And we literally had nothing, and that, I bore myself with my stories, but we took a balance transfer from our credit card. In those days, you could do that. You could take a balance transfer and put it into your bank account. And so we did that. And well, I say I did it, and I didn't tell Kate. And so we bought it, and we bought these 50 sheep and started farming. And we built up slowly. Whilst I was at SEC, we got to 150 sheep. And at that point, I was on 7 different holdings, with all the movements and hassle that represented for just 150 sheep. And I left SEC and started doing self-employed consultancy. So just to sort of try and left SEC, did self-employed consultancy with the idea that the farming would grow and we could reduce the consultancy as it took up more time. And of course, we'd get a tenancy pretty much straight away, and it'll all be good. And 7 attempts and 8 years later, it wasn't happening either. So it was we were still on seasonal lets. I'd actually moved down to Salon in West Fife with a actual still, you get people in life that help you out, and you never really say a proper thank you to them. But this one chap, Craig Mitchell, he let me farm his, one of his farms, really. And we increased to 600 odd ewes, and obviously I paid him rent, it wasn't free. But that was 35 miles away. And, you go down 3 times a week for 5. I think Craig thought I was going to be there for 6 months. I ended up staying for 5 years. So he, it's probably more than he expected. But
and how stressful was that, having all those different holdings and being on the road? And how did you manage that?
It wasn't stressful, Nick. Was it stressful? I can't remember the stress. I think it was. It was a pure. I was surprised at my determination, because this is what I set myself a goal, and this is what I was going to do.
He's moving again.
Sorry?
That's fine.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's just my internet again. Go on.
All right. Oh, sorry. I was. So I'd set myself a goal, and I was actually. Sometimes it shows you what you can do. I was really just so determined to do it. I didn't really get stressed by it, I don't think. And this is the great thing, in the moment you get stressed about things, but actually when you look back, it wasn't stressful at all. So, so anyway, that's so it was a lot of money, in terms of fuel. The fuel was ridiculous. The carbon footprint of those sheep must have been horrendous. And in 5 years, you do spend a lot of time in the car. 5 years, 35 miles from home, there and back, 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. And in the car, you think, well, how many miles am I actually doing? And it was twice the circumference of the globe that it was the equivalent of. So I just think that is obviously it was unsustainable, but it was still, I was actually quite proud of doing it, believe it or not. But so we kept on going and kept on trying for tenancies, and we never got them. So I think we tried 7 times, and the 7th time was a great place down in Selkirk. It's just right, and it was a council farm. It actually had, in the common, the border towns have common ridings, and this Selkirk farm was the race course for the common riding, where the town have their races at a particular time of year. Anyway, so it was a great farm, and I offered far too much for it, and I remember I had to sort of be interviewed by, I don't know how many, 8 people from the councillors, things like that. And it was quite nerve-wracking. I thought the interview went well. And you just wait by the phone then, as you did for the previous 6. And the phone call eventually comes from the agent, and the agent says, you came second. And that, I was so up for that. I'd really felt that this was it. 6 times, it's got to be the 7th. I've done a great business plan. I've offered loads of money. I don't know how I'm going to make it work, but I probably will. And the interview went okay. And then someone else gets it, and it's absolutely gutting. I mean, there's a lot of, people will know that tenancies are like hen's teeth, and a lot of good people go for these tenancies. So it's not necessarily a source of shame, but it's really frustrating. So, so it's then that I tried to get a Nuffield, because I thought either I give up because this is not working, or I have to find another way to do it. So that's when I went for a Nuffield. I actually tried for a Nuffield before and didn't even get an interview.
And so in terms of that, because you mentioned determination, and it was that sort of drive to. So after 7, what kept you going? Is that because I know maybe you can't answer? Maybe it was just you were trying to prove something. It was like a pretty woman moment. But do you mean that's a hell of a lot of knockbacks to keep picking yourself up, and the next day you carry on?
Yeah, I would. I think it comes down. I've always thought I didn't really want, and I think it goes back to land agency as well, is that I didn't want to do something I wasn't passionate about. And you got one life, haven't you? I'm going to get deep again, but you've got one life, and you want to be proud of what you've done. And I felt that this was going to be an achievement. If I can make this work, it'd be sort of my life-defining struggle. Something that I would. Why are you laughing?
No, because I think I have probably, well, both of us probably have had this, like, you've just got one life. Don't let it be, predictable.
Can't be bland,
boring.
Nick. Can't be. It can't be bland.
No, but I think you can possibly let it be bland if you don't make yourself slightly uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I think, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm sure I would be. Look, we've always struggled cash-wise to a point of embarrassment, but I think, and maybe if I'd gone a separate way, I could have been in a much more financially comfortable position. But I don't think I would be as proud. I mean, it sounds like I've made it and stuff like that, which is not the case at all. And, I've done so many mistakes, it's untrue, but I still feel proud. And I think pride is quite a big thing. And so I'm proud of what we've done. I'm frustrated that we haven't done more, but we keep fighting the good fight, and we're still in the game, so that's a source of quite, yeah.
I'm just getting a few questions about what you're currently doing. So because with that still
currently mincing about trying to get my charger of my computer to work.
Yeah, I think more farming system, I think. So that sort of you went on a enough field.
Yeah, I went on my enough field, and yeah, that again was quite a big thing. But to go fast forward, perhaps, and maybe we can come back to it. But fast forward, the year I finished my enough field, just after the conference, actually, we were successful in getting, for the 8th time of asking, we're successful in getting a tenancy, and so that was in Strathearn, so just south of Perth, 500 acres. It was the best. It's the best farm we looked at. Better than the Selkirk one. Great. Well, I think the landlord's fantastic. We've got a great neighbour who I work in conjunction with. So actually, good things do come to those who wait. And by the good neighbour, I'm not meaning John Ritchie, because I know he's listening. So that's and you think, after all that time of waiting, you think that's that's it. You've achieved your dream, but little do you know, it's just bloody base camp. You've got there's so many things that have challenged us since that have been interesting, to say the least. That but again, it adds to it just adds to the richness of the journey. So yeah, so that's, and we've got 800, yeah, just short of 850 ewes, a couple of hundred hogs. I actually work, the neighbour that I was talking about, who isn't John Ritchie, is right next door. So I look after 500 ewes there plus 200 hogs. And I've gone into a sort of joint venture, starting a sort of a cow enterprise, where we're grazing our hill ground. Well, it's mostly his hill ground. And I think we could roll that out to a few more cows. So for quite a low cost operation. So that's exciting. That's exciting.
And so they're all outwintered on the hill, the cows. Nothing,
yeah.
Never.
Yeah, they're never in. Well, they come from Charlie and Andrea Walker. They're theirs. They bred them, and their cows are never inside. So it's quite good preparation for here.
So before the Nuffield, because you talk a lot about being grass obsessed, but yes. Before the Nuffield, were you obsessed?
I was interested. My basis, you have to do a sort of study for basis, and it was on grassland. I was interested in it, but so I suppose what you've got. So we all have different focuses or foci, and my focus was just to be able to farm. So. So how do I do that? And you go on a Nuffield when you're not doing a great job, you're never getting a tenancy, blah, 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 boo-hoo. And so you go around the world and you listen to lots of different stories from lots of different people. And you understand a bit more about building a business, and not just being a new entrant, but being a businessman, trying to build a business in farming, which is actually really hard, to do it well. And I still don't think I've mastered it at all, but I kind of know the theory, But the guys that really did well with it, was really concentrated on equity and how they grew their equity. And this was all news to me. And how they grew their equity, well, a lot of people were in that sort of position where it was actually quite beneficial to have own land and to improve that land, to ride the increasing market, to so that their equity grew when they were lying in bed at night, you know. And the other less common way of building equity in a growing farm business was to be just really bloody good at farming and generate a lot of cash, generate profit, generate cash to invest to then get capital growth. So so I suppose the horrible thought for me was that I couldn't afford a farm to build equity that way. I would actually have to be quite good at farming, which was knowing, if you knew my limitations, that would be quite a scary concept. So yeah, so that was yeah, I suppose that was the focus. And how do you come across, how do you do that? And I went around Australia and you got sort of ideas of it. And it was whispered in Australia about how grass might be quite important. And then I fly to New Zealand and I start off in Queenstown and I go right the way up to Auckland. And every day for 3 weeks, I'm told about the power of grass. And every day for 3 weeks, it goes in one ear, out the other ear. And I appreciate, you know, you always make excuses. It's not the UK. New Zealand is different. You've all heard it before. And of course it's different, but sometimes principles are they're not different at all. The principles are not different. And you have to overcome those barriers in your mind. And it was only on the last day of that 3-week trip, I went to a share farmer near Hamilton, and his name was Anthony Beat, and obviously everyone in New Zealand has a nickname, and he was called Beetle. And Beetle showed me around as a share milking guy. So he showed me around his paddocks, which were all new to me, and I didn't understand paddock grazing. So, he explained, he's like the Yoda of the ryegrass plant, you know. And he just knew so much about grass, and I didn't realize that he did have to know much about grass. And I suppose the two things that really interested me was that he explained, and whether it's right or not, it was a good story. He said that in the Waikato, one of the best grass growing areas in the world, you could grow 18 tons of dry matter per hectare, or you could grow 9. And he felt that the dairy guys would grow 18, the sheep guys would grow 9, because the sheep guys just put loads of sheep, set stocked, and that was that. And it just, it just controlled the grass to a point that it didn't grow. So, and he explained all about that rotational grazing stuff. So that was, for me, the answer. That was the answer. So I got very, very excited about it. And we went to France, actually. And I suppose parallel to this, I was with some five really switched on grass-based dairy farmers on my Nuffield year. And they inspired me too. And they taught me loads and loads and loads about it. And then we went to France, and an absolute genius called John Bailey. And I know some people found John interesting, but he was just ahead of his time. And he put it in a way that was easy to understand and you could get a grasp of. And it was all about making money. Well, not all about making money, but there was a really good business edge to him in terms of making money from grass. And of course, that Beetle, the trip to Beetles, he said you could grow twice the amount of grass and you could spend half of the amount of money. And that, twice and half are huge, huge words for a new entrant farmer or a first generation farmer. So that was really a driver for me. If you could feed your stock with something that grew out of the ground, whether you liked it or not, that was just huge. And so that was where the passion came for that.
And that, I suppose, led you to so in terms of, at that stage, could you find sources of information in the UK, or were you were still extracting information from the dairy boys or wherever, or were you starting to find farmers that were starting to change their systems?
John Bailey was really pioneering stuff in France, and so he did actually. He gave me a lot of information in terms of beef, especially, but sheep as well. And I did try things out, you know. You put a lot of electric fencing up and took it down again. It was very tiring and stuff. It's actually carted water to you know. But I think I know Michael Shannon was doing it from years ahead of when I went on my Nuffield. But Michael Shannon is in Lanarkshire, and I suppose he's known in Scotland as the grazing guy. But yeah, it was really quite unusual, and but thinking about that was only 9 years ago, and it's absolutely gone haywire.
And what I'm always interested in is that sort of an epiphany, isn't it? Which is in your words, it took you quite a few trips and 3 weeks in New Zealand where it was mentioned to you every day for you to get. And so, and I agree, it's shifted no end in the last 10 years, but it's still got to shift a fair amount. I mean, we've still got a lot of people to shift, and not everybody can do a Nuffield or spend 3 weeks. So have you found in your experiences, what's the best way to sort of really supercharge those farmers to change how they approach grass?
God, that's a good question, Liz.
I have them sometimes.
Yeah. What's the best way? Well, I think there needs to be a need. There needs to be a hunger of some sort. So it does have to come from within them. I think farmers respond really well to passion, you know, and getting excited about stuff, because that's that sort of stuff, isn't it? And it's actually,
I think I could hear him going upstairs.
You can hear his footfall and then it disappears.
He's probably gone to get a cup of tea.
I don't know.
What the problem? I don't want to say what the problem is.
Your charger?
Yes. I'm on 1%.
Okay. Let's be quick about it then. So in terms of passion, the response to passion, that sort of, but the need comes from within.
And it's yeah, absolutely. And people need to want to change. And you know, I've been involved with farmers that, you know, come along to every single meeting and never do anything about it. But that's fine, you know. They find it interesting, and I think, I mean, if you get onto a subject of facilitation, and I just think it should be fun, and it should be a laugh. Farming is meant to be fun. It's not all serious, and I suppose having fun, laughing, but learning stuff, being excited about stuff, seeing the link between what you're listening to and what could be done on farm just gets really, yeah, I think it gets people pumped up.
And in terms of sort of the next sort of round of policy, so do you mean we know subsidies are going? Do you think, is that enough of a? Do you mean we always use New Zealand as an example, and that was a very abrupt shift, wasn't it, in terms of people's ideas, and that had a very abrupt change in terms of people's livelihoods. So do you think there is enough leeway or lead-in time? Do you think we are going to be ready for the challenges, and I suppose of what grass can and can't do to help us?
Can you phrase that in another way, Liz, that I can
understand? It was see, I did a good question, then I did a bad question. I suppose it's not a good question. It's a leading question, which is basically subsidies are going, aren't they, in the next 7 years? Have we got enough time in that time?
Well, I think you should move to Scotland first of all.
Why?
I don't think I think we're going to have them for a wee bit longer.
Okay.
But so the lead-in time to make money out of grass without subsidy.
Yeah.
I think even the best grass farmers at the moment, I think, to be really comfortable, need subsidy. Most of them, and I think that's to do with scale. I think it's to do with complexity of system. And I mean, I farmed for 5 years without subsidy, and it is bloody hard, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, it's really hard. So yeah, I think scale is a big thing, and it's not a coincidence that in New Zealand and in Australia you have far bigger flocks and herds. So I think, I mean, I still do business reviews for people, and there's a lot to be solved by managing more stock in less time, and effectively, obviously effectively. But I think you've got to be really precise to get the most out of it, and I think that means things like Farmax, and you know, that has huge potential to really. I mean, if you really want up your game, I think something like that is that would help. But you've got to get much closer to the envelope to make good money out of grass-based systems that aren't dairy. Yeah.
And there's just a couple of questions on sort of so your grazing system, rotational grazing system, and would be what sort of heights are you going in and out of on your sheep systems?
Too low.
Okay.
I think I managed, yeah. Well, I thought I was being clever last year, going in.
Oh, this is where his phone might have actually died, Liz.
Well, that's a situation we weren't prepared for. Well, we sort of were. He did warn us about 5 minutes ago. I find it slightly stressed. I'm stressed, and I've drunk quite a lot of that, and I'm still stressed. Yeah. I'm guessing that might be it for now. What we might do is a rematch in the new year and get him to actually have a battery fully charged. And I apologise massively for the disruption this evening. And I know quite a few people have commented about his audio, and I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, I think we thought he'd done this before.
He might have done, but he's just, yeah, he had issues with his charger. And then anyway, yes, his laptop wasn't charged and then his charger wasn't working.
Anyway, so
we can breathe.
Well, thank you all for joining us, and I'm thinking this probably is it, isn't it? What do you think, Liz? No messages from him.
No, and I do think the point is that we should ask Santa to get him a new charger. That is what we're going to send to him. I'm not sure one of my new branded hats will do enough for that. It's the charger needed. But yeah, what we'll try and do is rearrange it in the in the new year and see.
Yeah.
And basically, we were just getting warmed up, ready for the fight about regen versus.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, regen versus.
But I suppose you, as in your, we'll fill for a moment and see whether he returns. But in your stalking of him this week, what were you particularly impressed by?
Well, I wanted him to talk about some of the people he met when he was traveling, because the thing that I think he's really good at, and he's good on the podcast, is he gets that level a bit deeper. So it's not just a surface conversation. It's kind of, he's good at kind of making people look inward and getting a bit emotional, and I do quite like that. And also the fact that he has done it, hasn't he? He's farming and he's achieved it. It's not easy, but I would have liked to have dug a bit deeper into his Nuffield. So next time, and how in the Nuffield, if he hadn't have done it, how, what were the implications of that, really?
There's some really interesting questions coming through, so we're not off the hook just yet. So some of these we can deal with, perhaps. And well, they're more statements, so I'll read some of the statements out. So a bit about that, the sort of adversity that he faced, and I think Rich Thomas, he says, doesn't that sometimes change comes from a crisis? So like Gabe Brown and the fact, was it 3 or 4 failed harvests before he? Do you mean? And that's what.
Yeah.
So in terms of I just don't want to really talk about a crisis that's coming, but I think it is about, there is change in how we approach it, I suppose, and how we get ready for it. And we have got some time, and except in Scotland, they might have a bit longer. So then there's a question in terms of Jim, I do like your comment, which is maybe his battery is lower than his covers. So that's quite a good one. And also there's a sort of point at the bottom, which is so from, and maybe it's closer to my heart than yours, but a Lincolnshire arable farm on hiding to nothing, thinking it would be able to grow grass and feed its livestock as the primary break crop within a profitable rotation. So if we think forward 5 to 10 years, do we think, and it's sort of, we've had last time we had a bit of debate about whether we should feed cereals within the regen perspective, but there's a huge number of the huge amount of land area that is growing cereals and is likely to continue. So how can we develop those profitable rotations? And that might be one for another chat, to be fair, to explore that a bit more.
And Jan Ledoux has asked me how the hens are coping with lockdown. Well, Jan, with zero grazing. So for those who don't know, we've just started doing pasture raised eggs, which is not great with avian flu. So they went in on the 14th of December. So they're in the egg mobile in a shed, and they go out in the day in the shed. But we're zero grazing currently the lawn to feed them. So they're still slightly pasture raised, but it's not great. I don't know how long it's going on for.
Well, it's potentially till March, April time, isn't it?
I know. Well, last time it was 20 weeks. And they've got it now in Orkney and Hawes. So it's all getting a bit closer to us. Yeah.
And if it's diagnosed in your chickens, everything has to be gone?
Just all go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
I have got a message from him that he is very embarrassed and he is working to try and get back on. So there is a question for both of us here, which is, could you tell us about your farms? So do you want to go first?
Have you made that question up, Liz?
No, David Brewster has asked.
Okay. So I'll go quickly. We have 350 acres, of which 120 are quite rough, kind of. It's called an allotment, but it's just rough ground. We have got. We've gone down to about 450 sheep. We were up at 1,000 a couple of years ago, and then we've pushed the suckler numbers up. So we've now got about 60 sucklers, many of which we've actually bought from the Nellises as bulling heifers. We also have got the pastured hens, which were a new thing. And the idea at the minute, we've just got 80 in the shed. But the idea is that by April, we'll have about 250 following the cows in rotation. And we've also got some outdoor pigs who we then sell sausage and bacon direct to the local people. And I think that's it. Yeah.
And in terms of so your plan is really to focus on selling more of that direct, or building up your supply base to.
Yeah, but so we sell we sell quite a bit of bacon and sausage, and we do pastured reared broilers, Joel Salatin style. So we've done about 250 of those this summer, and they go down a storm, but we need to be able to process them here really to make it kind of pay. And we're just jumping through the hoops with the Environment Agency at the minute on how to do that, because they're quite hard work about the waste. And then, we sell sausage and bacon locally, and we're just moving into a bit of beef and lamb. But what I do love, and I've just started off our egg hub. So we just we go to a village. It sounds really weird, but we go to a village at a certain time and just open the boot of the car, and then people are meant to flood out of their houses to buy eggs. Sometimes they do, but that's just a very kind of quick way of selling food locally. Do
you have a table, maybe with a tablecloth, or it's just out of your boot?
No, it's mainly a head torch out of a boot. It looks like you're doing something really dodgy. But Renault's done it tonight, and I think he quite enjoyed it. He has to go egg hub.
And a bell. I agree with you.
Well,
that's a bit like leprosy, though. It's like. Anyway.
So, my original plan was, because he plays the bagpipes, just to get a bit of attention, was that he played the bagpipes. Like, turn up somewhere quite dark at night, bagpipes. Everyone comes out and thinks, we'll go and buy some eggs off them.
It's an element of Pied Piper about it.
Yeah.
So and just I come from a mixed family farm in South Lincolnshire, so we've got 300 sheep, 30 odd suckler cows, and a couple of 100 acres of arable, so relatively keeps us out of trouble. But I also have to work elsewhere, and we're just in the process of developing a brand called Three Daughters, so quite unique. We're YP Genever and Daughters as the farm name. So we're just starting to sell more beef and lamb, and we've got 4 pigs arriving in January, and we're doing it through a pig club, and we've already sold them all, and they're not even on farm yet. As I said to my sister when she said I've sold them all, I was like, we've just got to keep them all alive now, haven't we? I would like a little. It's not like you can keep a little bit in reserve. So so that's.
So are they going to be outside, just roaming around?
When we get them, they'll be inside, because it's obviously mid-Jan. But eventually we'll fence off a bit of wood for them to be in, and then because the idea about pig club is a lot more engagement, but obviously with COVID we don't quite know how much people can come on farm, but we do quite a lot through Instagram, and what's interesting is that we've sort of set about it in the last probably couple of months, and so try and post something every day about what we're up to, and you suddenly realize you actually are quite busy. I don't mean like that, but there's always something to talk about. You always think, we're going to run out of things to say, but actually there's always some adventure happening. So it's good.
So you'll have those pigs. Where will you have them processed?
We have they'll go to sort of localish abattoir, so probably 20 miles away, and then a mate of mine butchers them. So he's got his own sort of butchery business. So we've got one guy who does our lambs, and then he does any beef animals as well. So they'll go to him. But there's a lot more decisions regarding a pig.
The thing that we find is that it's the processing is the hard bit, but what's good is that local people they'll pay for it, and they really like, if you can make good bacon, they'll pay for it. So we struggle to get enough bacon. Oh, my internet.
And but how many pigs do you have?
We've got Brunhilde and Heidi.
I don't need to know all of the names.
No, that's it. Two sows, and then they have piglets nearly twice a year. But they have loads, so like they have like 13, 14, and then we've got we used to have a boar called Big Bad Barry who came from James Drummond, but now we've got Go Hard Gerard. So we got but he isn't proven yet, so we'll wait and see.
Okay, so it's all about the bacon.
It's all about the bacon. But if anyone else, I'm quite interested if anyone else online sells bacon, how much you sell it per kilo, because it's just interesting, a bit of per kilo chat.
Okay, so that's a question for Twitter. I've got no further response from Michael. I may have called him a rude word, but that hasn't helped him come back. Begins and ends with a T. So I think we might be done. We have done a bit of filling, and thank you for bearing with us, and we will be back. We were going to have January off, but I think we might have to come back and repeat this.
Well, I think we'll
repeat this.
We'll have to make a big thing of him coming back and shame him quite badly. Don't you think? Yeah.
Well, we live and learn. I'm glad I've had my amaretto. I'm only just... Oh, he's ringing. 1 second. I'm leaving you. There's a question about direct selling from Daniel, who says he can't do it.
He can't. Daniel. Oh, she's left me now, and I don't know where this question is. Daniel. You're in New Zealand, Daniel. Flip. Why can't you do it over direct in New Zealand, I wonder? Do you want to write in the chat why you can't do it in New Zealand? Yeah, so the eggs are really easy to sell. So Miles and Glenn's Pothwaite are mentioning eggs. Liz?
Yeah, I'm back.
Is he...
his 4-month-old MacBook has decided it no longer wants to work. So that's his challenge.
I think we need to call it a day, Liz.
Yes.
But we've got a chap on from New Zealand, which is quite something.
This is not our best work. Let's just put it out there. Anyway.
Too many regulations.
Okay. Right. Thank you, everybody. Sorry again. He's used to Michael, so says it all. Thanks again. We will be back in contact. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.